Hi, Arcfieldweather.com meteorologist Paul Dorian here on Monday morning, January 10th. It's a cold and blustery morning here in the Mid-Atlantic region, and that is following an initial cold frontal system that came through last night. A secondary Arctic front will blast through the region later this evening. That will usher in some of the coldest air we've seen in quite a while in the northeastern states, in the Mid-Atlantic region. The coldest core of this upcoming Arctic blast will take place tonight, tomorrow, and tomorrow night. Temperatures way below normal. Very, very cold conditions and even colder wind chill values during this Arctic blast. Again, very cold tonight, tomorrow night throughout the northeastern quadrant of the nation. It's an overall active weather pattern, and the chance for storms will tend to increase on Friday, Saturday time frame, and really from that time period early this week and for the next 5 or 10 days, we'll have to watch out for multiple threats for some snow in the Mid-Atlantic region, in the Northeast U.S. This weekend, for an example, there'll be a storm that is likely to form over the western part of the Atlantic Ocean. It looks like it'll stay to the east of the Mid-Atlantic region, but it's a close call, something that will have to be monitored over the next few days. It certainly can have an impact on places like northern New England, the east coast area of Maine as an example. If that one stays to the east, there's another threat coming probably in the Sunday, Monday time frame, and then perhaps another one just a few days after that. Let's start off by looking at one of the teleconnection indices we've been following, the Pacific North American Index, known as the PNA. When it is in positive territory, that suggests there is kind of a ridge popping up across the western part of Canada, and that allows for cold air outbreaks to reach the central and eastern U.S. from way up in Canada. If the PNA is in negative territory through a sustained period of time, tends to be a strong jet streak, basically a west to east jet streak across the, let's say, the U.S.-Canadian border, and that kind of bottles up the cold air to the western part of Canada, Alaska, and prevents it, or it certainly inhibits it, from penetrating into the central and eastern states. As we'll see here, throughout much of the month of December, the PNA was indeed in negative territory, kind of bottling up that cold air up in the western part of Canada and Alaska. They had some very, very cold weather, whereas the eastern U.S. had quite a mild month of November. But then a transition occurred right around the beginning part of January, and for the next couple of weeks the PNA will stay in neutral or even positive territory. Again, a more favorable sign for cold air outbreaks to make it all the way into the central and eastern U.S. By the way, the other teleconnection indices, we take a look at the North American Oscillation, the AO, tend to be in negative territory over the next couple of weeks, and that also is a signal for some cold air outbreaks making their way from northern Canada all the way into the eastern states. So certainly some more cold air masses will infiltrate the central and eastern U.S. over the next couple of weeks. Well, let's start off looking at the maps by taking a view here of the 500 millibar height anomaly forecast maps using the ensemble run of the GFS from last night at 0Z. First of all, with respect to the PNA that we just saw here, I mentioned a ridge up across the western part of Canada, and indeed you see the general flow in this kind of a pattern like this if we go parallel to these height lines, and that indeed allows for the transport of very cold air masses from way up in Canada down into the central and eastern U.S. And indeed we have a cold air mass in place right now, and even colder Arctic, true Arctic air will arrive this evening. And again, a 36-hour stretch of very cold conditions for places like D.C., Philadelphia, New York City, Boston, and all surrounding areas from tonight through tomorrow night. Now, let's move forward and look at some important indications of storminess coming up here. Again, this is a GFS ensemble run. Here we are at the middle of the week. We have a modification in temperatures coming on Wednesday and Thursday. Places like D.C., Philadelphia certainly can reach 40+ degrees on Thursday afternoon, but much closer to 20 degrees tomorrow afternoon in the core of the cold Arctic blast coming up here. And then we move forward into the latter part of the week, and notice first of all deep upper level lows starting to show up here again on the ensemble run of the GFS by the latter part of the week, early part of the weekend. Here we are into Friday morning. This looks like it'll stay just far enough to the east that it won't have an impact on places like the Mid-Atlantic region, although it can certainly have an impact up across northern New England's coastline, like the eastern part of Maine. But it is a close call. There's certainly some variability in the surface positioning of the low pressure area with respect to some of the ensemble runs. So it's something that will have to be watched over the next couple of days. That's the first threat here coming during the early part of the week, and let's say Friday, Saturday time frame. It'll be a strong ocean storm, something that still has to be watched. Should that stay off to the east, there's another threat coming, probably in the Sunday, Monday time frame. This is now Saturday evening going into the day on Sunday. And what is likely to happen here? Notice it starts to kind of back up here. Let's go backwards again. Watch the western extent of the upper level pattern here as we move forward. And what's happening here, and here we are now into Monday morning, a clipper system. Looks like it'll dive to the south and east across the Great Lakes, and it very well could invigorate storm development near the Mid-Atlantic coastline. We're talking Sunday, Monday time frame. This is not that ocean storm threat. This is the next one, which is coming a short time later. This is a very interesting time frame here. Again, Sunday, Monday for the Mid-Atlantic region, northeastern states. Could be a clipper system that sets off the development of a Mid-Atlantic, near the Mid-Atlantic coastline type of situation. Again, Sunday, Monday time frame. Let's now move forward here. And again, cold air outbreaks quite likely to work their way into the central and eastern U.S. If we go into the latter part of next week, we're now out 10, 11 days or so, and this is a pattern. You just want to go all the way out to, let's say, January 21st. This is quite an impressive pattern here for some cold, some possible accumulating snow, maybe even a nor'easter type of situation here. Again, this is speculation phase, but the overall weather pattern certainly becomes one that could produce a storm, let's say anytime from Friday or Saturday, and then beyond that for the next 5 or 10 days or so. We have a lot of things going on here that are quite favorable to some cold, to some snow. First of all, note this is the North Pole right here. You can see a little circle on this very extreme part of the map here. Look at the flow right here, first of all. This is the cross-polar flow that develops in the upper part of the atmosphere. In other words, cold air masses on the other side of the North Pole, the Siberian side of the North Pole, can cross over the North Polar region and work their way into the northern part of Canada. And with this kind of a flow, can work their way all the way into the central and eastern U.S. Something to watch out for. Second, very interesting looking upper level low pattern across the eastern states. Again, we're talking 10, 11, 12 days down the road, but it's something that many of the models are picking up on, and I think this overall pattern is certainly conducive to this kind of cold and storminess type of setup. We have ridging popping up here just east and south of Greenland across the northern Atlantic, and ridging popping up across the west coast of Canada, across Alaska, and again, that all favors some colder air outbreaks from northern Canada to make their way all the way into the central and eastern U.S. And with a blocking pattern setting up across the North Atlantic, any kind of a system that does manage to form along the east coast could be a slow mover. Again, a very favorable setup here in about 10 days or so. Well, let's quickly walk through the GFS ensemble run from 0Z with respect to temperatures. 850 millibar temperature anomalies going forward. We have a huge area below normal temperatures right now, and this is associated with an Arctic blast. Again, there's a secondary Arctic front that comes through the Mid-Atlantic region during the early evening hours. It could certainly set off some snow shower activity, and while it's very cold right now and stays cold throughout the day, it gets even colder after the secondary frontal passage early tonight. 36-hour stretch of very cold tonight, tomorrow, and tomorrow night. Let's move forward and we'll see beyond that there'll be additional cold air outbreaks. We do have modification. This is Wednesday morning's forecast map of the 850 millibar temperature anomalies. Absolutely some modification in the temperature pattern, especially by Thursday afternoon. Again, we could reach maybe 40 to 45 degrees in D.C., Philadelphia for afternoon highs. Again, that follows 20 to 25 degrees on Tuesday afternoon. And then it turns colder again, and watch here as we move forward. We have a lot of colder than normal patterns here coming up over the next couple of weeks here. This is this Friday, the 14th of January, and then we keep moving forward. An overall look of colder than normal for much of the eastern states. Here we are a week from today, next Monday, January 17th, really colder than normal from northern Canada all the way across central and eastern states. This is relative to normal. We're seeing the blues here, below normal temperatures. Again, remember I talked about the overall wind flow allowing for the transport of cold air masses, colder than normal air masses from way up in Canada into the central and eastern states. And look at that, it continues next week. A very interesting look to it here with a lot of cold air masses. Here comes another one dropping down from way up in Canada into the central U.S. and then it'll eventually spill out over into the eastern states. This is a week from Friday, January 21st, 10, 11, 12 days out, and this is the time period where we were talking about some very interesting signals here with deep upper level low in the eastern states and ridging across western Canada, Alaska, and even some ridging up across the northeastern part of Canada into the North Atlantic. Watch out for this time period. Well, let's now walk through the Canadian model. I think the Canadian model has a little better handle on the situation coming in the latter part of the upcoming weekend. Let's say the Sunday, Monday storm threat as compared with the GFS, for example. So I want to use that right now. First of all, strong cold front passed through from northwest to southeast, passed through the Mid-Atlantic region last night, ushered in a cold air mass for today. That's just the beginning. A secondary Arctic front will come through later on this evening. Here we are. This is the evening forecast map, and you can even see in this synoptic scale type of computer forecast model, a little kinkiness in the isobar pattern right here. And that is the secondary cold front. Let's take that away. See the little kinkiness in the isobar pattern right there? That is the secondary Arctic front right here as of early this evening, and it's dropping in this fashion here. Certainly can generate a couple of snow showers that work their way all the way into the Mid-Atlantic region. Let's now move forward, and here comes that secondary Arctic front later this evening. Snow bands will form downstream of the Great Lakes, extending all the way from, let's say, Lake Erie into upstate Pennsylvania, and certainly some of that can make it into northeastern PA. The Poconos, for example, can get some heavier snow bands, maybe even some snow shower activity into southeastern Pennsylvania with the arrival of that secondary Arctic blast. And then later tonight and tomorrow night, just a deep freeze here with, in some cases, dangerously cold wind chill values late tonight, early midday on Tuesday. Very, very cold conditions for about a 36-hour stretch tonight through Tuesday night. Then let's move forward here. The high moves over the western Atlantic by the time we get to the middle part of the week, and certainly by the time we get to Thursday, there'll be a modification of temperatures in the Mid-Atlantic region. It's at this time we'll have to start watching this ocean storm that will form here in the western part of the Atlantic. It does right now look like it'll stay off the east coast, but it's close enough, and we'll have to monitor it over the next few days. By the time we get into Friday, a strong storm will be located over the western Atlantic. Then we start looking upstream, and I mentioned that threat for the Sunday, Monday time frame. Strong Clipper system looks like it'll drop southeast out of Canada into the Great Lakes region, and it could ultimately spawn a low pressure area right in this region here. This is the Saturday evening forecast map. threat of snow associated with the Clipper in the Mid-Atlantic region as early as Saturday night going into Sunday. And then we have to watch right here. You can start to see development right in this region for maybe a secondary storm system right in this area right here. I have to watch out for this as a possibility. Here we go. In fact, by the time we get to Sunday morning, there is a storm near the Mid-Atlantic coastline, again, from a Clipper system that drops across the southeast across the Great Lakes, and it could help to spawn low pressure over the Mid-Atlantic coastline Sunday, Monday time frame. So a couple of threats coming up late this week into the weekend. One associated with an ocean storm, probably Friday, Saturday time frame, probably staying off the East Coast and staying out over the open waters of the Atlantic, but something we'll have to monitor. Then another threat for the Mid-Atlantic, for the Northeast, I believe from this Clipper system, Sunday time frame, maybe Saturday night into early Monday, something we'll watch over the next several days. Very interesting weather pattern over the next couple of weeks. That's it for now. I'm ArcfieldWeather.com meteorologist Paul Doherty.